Hello again. This armor's heavy, fencers. I wanted to talk a little bit about shields in this video. Um, as far as the different options, there's actually some new shields in this game. First let me cover the auxiliary items. For his auxiliary items in this column, they all affect actually using the shield, so it's kind of interesting, a choice of what you would take. In this column, you'll have the ability to increase the number of dashes you have, and also the number of jumping, which you won't really use that with the shield, but with the dashes is important. In this column, you can increase the health of your shield up to, like for this one, for example, this one's 400% of your shield, and also increases plus 30 of the degree in front of you, the radius of how wide the shield is, which is kind of cool. Or you can decrease the amount of damage your shield takes, or the amount of knockback you get when you have your shield held up. You can also reduce the amount of how slow you're turning when you have the shield equipped, or a heavy weapon equipped in general, but it affects the shield as well. So there's a lot of different options, and I'll talk about as far as what options I really prefer, but I haven't found the perfect setup yet. I'm still experimenting, but I will talk about what I prefer. But as far as the shields go, there's 4 different types of shields, as far as I can tell so far, the ones that I have unlocked. The first shield you have is called the reflector shield, which it looks like this. It has very low health, so you're not going to use it to block damage coming in, but you're going to use it to reflect only. And because of that, it has the highest and fastest reflection rate as far as how fast you can reflect, and also there's no penalty to turn or while you're holding it up. There's no penalty at all. And then the next shield you have available is an ionic shield, or ion shield from the previous game is what I would call this one. It has a little bit more durability, so you can use it to protect yourself, but also it has no penalty for turning left or right, or while you're holding it up there's no penalty. So it's a fast shield you can hold up and you can still remain fast. However, the angle of how wide it covers in front of you is the third stat down, which is 63 degrees. It's not fully upgraded, but it has a narrower blocking in front of you. Then the next shield available is this shield, which I think is a new to this game as far as I can tell. It has more health. It has even more health than the ion shield, which I have, like one up here. It has more health. It has a wider degree in front of you of coverage. And it has no penalty to turn around, but when you hold the shield up there's a penalty, which is the 50 and 60% down there. And then the last shield is the tower shield, which has the most health, and it has the widest degree in front of you. This has 138 degrees in front of you. And then it has a penalty even if you're not holding the shield up. And then it has an even more penalty when you do hold it up. But also it does have the furthest reflection rate, or how far you reflect back, but it's not that important in my opinion. Like for example, this reflects back 15, this reflects back 10, this one reflects back 10, and then this one reflects back 5. So it's not as important, that part, but yeah, those are the 4 shields in this game. As far as what weapons I like to take, I usually will take, if I'm taking a shield that I'm going to use for protection and not reflection, I will take a blast hole spear or a spine driver usually. The reason I like those is because the blast hole spear is very, very high damage, and it's a very good weapon. It penetrates through enemies, so I always like taking that if I'm doing high damage. Or the spine driver is more of if I want to remain a little bit more mobile. You can just kind of do a quick shot that's higher damage, and then you can dash away and get to another position, to a better position, and then do another quick shot, and then move away, so forth. It doesn't penetrate through enemies though, but it still can be useful. It has usually more range as well, so that could be a positive. If I'm ever using the reflector shield, I prefer the jackhammer, which is this weapon here. The reason being is I like it over the flashing spear because of the range. It's usually higher on the blast hole. If the range is higher on the flashing spear later on, I would probably take a flashing spear, but because it penetrates through enemies. But I really like the jackhammer, and I'll show why in the actual video. But I usually take that with a reflector. You can also take some swords. They do penetrate through enemies, and this one has good range if you charge it all the way up. I don't mind the swords. I don't use them too much, but they're pretty decent as well. I usually won't take a hammer, but I mean, there's probably times where you can take a hammer or an axe as well. But anyway, like I said, blast hole, spine driver, or jackhammer for the reflector. So now let's actually, oh yeah, as far as the items that I use, I really like the increased number of dashes because since you're having you don't have the ability to do the dash jump because you don't have a jump on your second weapon. The shield doesn't give you a jump. Therefore, it's nice to have more than one dash, so you can, dash, 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 get to a position, then hold your shield up and attack, and then, use as many dashes as you need to get away. I think it's pretty valuable. So I would probably recommend taking an item that increases your dash number. And then for your secondary item, I would probably take this second column here. I've been taking like the increased health of your shield, so 400%, and then increase the angle in front of you, 30 plus 30. And the reason I'm doing that is because instead of taking the tower shield like I used to, this one, I now like to take this shield, the one in the middle ground where there's no penalty for turning when you don't have the shield held up, but then when you have the shield held up, there's a penalty. So the reason I like this one is because it allows you to aim. It allows you to let go of your shield, aim really quickly, then hold your shield back up, and then block, and then attack. So that way you don't have to waste a slot, taking an item that reduces your movement speed for a heavy weapon, but still gives you, good protection, a decent amount of health on the shield, and a decent coverage angle in front of you. But that's mainly what I've been taking lately. But let's go ahead and get in the video, and I'll talk a little bit about what I was doing here on this mission. All right, let's get started here. I have 2 shields equipped. I don't recommend necessarily doing that because I just wanted to show the both different kind of shield setups I like in this setup. Usually I'll take a dash jump setup for my second so that I can get away fast. It depends if you want to reflect more, or if you want to be more defensive and use the shield for protection. But the first thing at the start here is usually when you're using the shield, you're going to be up front, of course. So the most priority that you want to keep an eye on for your map is the little enemies that are surrounding you. Even when you're fighting like a queen or something, usually the priority is trying to get behind the little enemies and take out the little enemies first, because they're the ones that can flank you and kill you because they'll come up from behind you. So that's definitely something important to note. Also keep an eye on your shield, of course. You want to reload it as much as you can, or whenever you have an opportunity to reload it, which is you click in L3 rather, and it'll reload it, which is a cool thing they added to this game finally. As far as this guy, since he has a machine gun, I'm going to switch to my tower shield because it's harder to reflect those kind of fast-moving projectiles. So it's better just to hold up your shield and to use that to shield the machine gun rather than to try and reflect it. And I have the blast hole on my heavier shield. I don't have that one shield I was talking about that has no penalty for movement, but that is the one I prefer over this. But the tower shield can still be good. But I just had to equip an item that reduced the amount of turning inertia while I'm using a heavy weapon to make this thing viable. But anyway, as far as the queens, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take 1 or 2 queens and just pull them over here to the flat area. The reason I like this is because it's very important to get on flat land when you're fighting a queen, because when they stand on the side of the house or stand on the side of something and start shooting on angles, it's a lot harder to dodge their fire and to not get hit, especially when you're other classes without a shield. But anyway, my main priority right here is just going to be attack the small enemies first, try and get good angles on them, kill them, and then attack the queen, because you can circle strafe around a queen for the most part and you'll be pretty safe. But you can do either or. You can either use like the tower shield like I'm doing here and just try and instead of trying to reflect back, you could just strafe around her and attack her with the blast hole to do a lot of damage. Or you can, which I'll do later, you can use the jackhammer as well and actually use the acid to actually hurt herself. The only thing you have to be careful with is when you're using reflector is you don't want to use, like if you're reflecting the acid back at a queen ant or a king spider or a spider in general, you have the threat of actually pulling more enemies that you don't want pulled. So like if I reflected right now, it would push the acid back and maybe pull some more enemies, which you don't want. So but anyway, I have a reflector shield here and the jackhammer. And like I said, the reason this is my favorite for the reflector setup is because whenever I need to reflect, I have the ability to cancel my jackhammer and just reflect because it's such a fast attack. So that's my opinion the best setup, because if you had a blast hole and you're swinging that blast tool and you try and reflect, it won't let you reflect until the animation is done. So it's a little bit more dangerous. So this way you always have a chance to reflect when you need it, and you always have a chance to do damage when you need it. So that's why it's one of my favorite setups. Also, something else that's important is if you're ever using a jackhammer and you ever dash, you want to make sure to reflect first before you attack. And the reason you do that is because if you dash and then try and attack with your jackhammer, you'll notice you can't attack right away. There's almost like a 1 second delay before you can start attacking. However, if you dash and then you reflect, you can attack instantly. So that's why you'll see me always reflecting once before I attack at any given time. But really, you know, it's not too dangerous when you have the reflector. The only time I usually get hit is when the acid bounces off of a house and comes back behind me. So that's why it's always best to be in open fields when you're using a reflector, if possible, of course. But it's not always necessarily going to happen. But it seems like, I'm not sure why, but I'm playing on hard in a private room online, so I am, I guess the reason that they're taking so long to die is because I'm playing alone online. When you play alone online, there's actually, the difficulty scales up to as if you have 4 people, because it seems like they don't want you to play by yourself, which is cool. I don't mind that. But for demonstration purposes, it takes a little longer to kill these things than it should. Now I'm just going to go over here and pull another ant. Queen ant preferably. This time I pull a lot more small ones, and so therefore I have to keep an eye constantly on the mini-map and to try and constantly work on killing the small ones first, because those are always a threat. The thing with the shield is when you get hit with the acid for the queen, it'll push you back. The acid will actually push you back, which is actually a good thing for your shield health. It doesn't take as much damage, but it's bad if you're trying to attack it with something that's closer range. So, but anyway, I'm just going to try and focus on the small ants. Always try and stay behind the enemy, and just as long as enemies are in front of my 100 and, you know, this one is 150 or 60 degree angle in front of me, then I'm pretty safe. So it's not too bad. You take, I think it was 80% damage when your shield is held up. So whatever damage you would have took without a shield, you just take 20% of that to yourself. I'm assuming that'll go up to 90 though, eventually when you have it fully upgraded. But really, there's not too much fear. I'm supposed to have, I think, I forgot what the health was. I think it was 3,000 or something health for this mission, but I'm not in too much fear as long as I have my shield up. You want to make sure, of course, to keep an eye on the health of your shield. And then you can always, you know, dash away. That's where the benefit of having multiple dashes is. I mean, I've definitely used multiple dashes many times already, so it's been very valuable to have. But as you can see, the acid pushes me away. I'm trying to reflect back now because I want to actually kill these, but it is more dangerous to fight in these building areas, and I actually do wind up going back around to that field because it's safer. See, now I'm in the corner, which is a dangerous spot because the acid can't push you back anymore because I'm against the wall, and I'll take a lot more damage. So just remember that if you're ever taking damage with your shield held up, try not to be in front of an obstacle so that you're getting jammed into it. You don't want to be pushed into an object that'll stop you, because then you'll take a lot more damage than if you just get kicked back, you know, normally. But yeah, this is usually what I've done in the past EDF games as far as fighting enemies with shield. The only difference, like I said, is now I think I'm going to take that one shield that has no penalty for turning until you have your shield held up, which I think is a really cool idea because I really like that. And you can get those shields up pretty high with your item to increase the health of your shield, so works out pretty good. But yeah, I'm just going to circle these queens back here to the center because it's safer, and then I'm just going to strafe around them. As far as using other enemies, like I said, if you're using it on those aliens or on the frogs, it depends on what they're using for weapons. Like if they're using like a slow projectile rocket, then I will definitely reflect back. If they're using a machine gun or like a laser beam thing, and then I'm gonna hold my shield up then, and use it to block the damage. Same with the frogs, you know, same idea. and of course spiders. I really like reflector for spiders over the tower shield. I mean, you can still use both, but I really like the reflector because spiders can one-shot themselves for the most part if you use the web, reflect the web back. And of course, king spiders, it's very good on the reflector. So I usually almost always take reflector jackhammer with the king spiders as well. So but yeah, it's a very good setup for lower health, and in general, I think I really like the shield. And I mean, it may not be as needed now. I'm not sure. Now that you can do that dash jump, it's when you get good at that, I think it'd be pretty strong to just, you know, be more elusive than trying to reflect. But it depends on the enemy. It depends how fast they shoot, if you need the reflector or not. So anyway, I just wanted to come to you with that. This is where I'm at so far in what I'm doing with shields, and I'll update as I find better items and if I find better builds. But someone asked about just some tips with the shield, so I just wanted to make a video here quickly about what setups I like to use and what I've been using lately. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. Hope to see you in the next one, and thanks for watching.